the software development process in the industry is very slow and very expensive. It's driven by requirements and tests, and it's estimated that one line of code costs around $100, which is very, very high compared to other industries.
You're listening to Foreign Founders. We tell stories of immigrant and first-gen entrepreneurs, investors, operators, and ecosystem builders. And on the show, you hear incredible stories that often go untold.
Yves Remmler is the co-founder and CEO of Endeavor Elements, an aerospace startup pioneering AI-driven avionics systems and certification solutions, with expertise in control systems, AI, and aerospace engineering. He is focused on bringing Silicon Valley speed and innovation to certification-heavy industries like aviation and defense. With a vision to build a trillion-dollar company, Yves is redefining how technology accelerates safety, efficiency, and certification in the aerospace industry. I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome to Foreign Founders, Yves.
Hi, thank you for the intro and the invitation.
I love to get started with just your background. Where'd you grow up?
I was born in Germany. I'm half German, half Luxembourgian. It's a very small country in Europe. I lived in the UK and in Austria before, and then I'm in the process of moving to the US.
And when did you get really interested in aerospace?
Um, I'd say I've always been interested in aerospace. I grew up near Frankfurt Airport in Germany,
Yeah.
and I remember I think it was my eighth birthday, and my parents organized a tour at the airport, and it was just incredible. I also remember my first flight around that time, and it was just really exciting. I've always been passionate about it.
Yeah.
Uh, Spent a lot of time on flight simulators, and
You
then
mean the games? The flight
yeah,
simulation game? Nice.
and I also started my private pilot's license, and I hope that I can continue that once the company has gained some traction in the summer when the weather is nice. And I just love flying, whether it's on a commercial flight or by myself. I've done aerobatics. I've been in a glider, and I think it's just an amazing industry with an incredible record safety wise, of course, and it delivers so much value to the world. You can travel anywhere within a day and just explore.
So really seeing from an early age that you were like really into flying airplanes, the industry. Did you always know that you were going to go into that industry, or was it happenstance that you end up being in the aerospace
Um,
industry?
I didn't always know it, but I'd say I've been drawn to deep tech for a very long time, thinking more about cars and robots. And then while I was doing my license, I discovered a different aviation aerospace startup, and I joined, became head of product there, and I just realized there's so much work to do, uh, a lot of stuff left on the table probably, um, while it is still incredible what the industry achieves.
What was that first product, or what was that product or company that you were building?
It was Turbulent Solutions in Austria, truly innovative startup, building turbulence suppression systems, active turbulence suppression, meaning the turbulence is measured and then canceled out.
Yeah.
Um, and I really like doing that. But I also saw what kind of a challenge certification is for a new company, and how much work is required to um, actually get a product that is of very high quality to a state where it can be certified. And that's sort of where my next ideas came from.
Mm. And even talking about that turbulence, like from a day-to-day flight, not day-to-day, but like a frequent flyer over the last like 30 years of my life, you don't really, as a normal consumer, like I don't really think about turbulence as technology that's like turbulence related technology getting better over time. Um, that I'm curious, what are some of the things that maybe listeners who have been on flights but are not in the industry would realize a huge leap and bound in technological improvements in the aerospace industry?
Um, I'd say there's happening a lot. So turbulence suppression is one thing that is coming, that has been coming. Some newer Boeing airplanes have a system called gas load alleviation that works very similarly. Um, there have been a lot of improvements in radio communications, which
Hmm.
is very important for safety. Um, and um, one thing that maybe some people have realized, if you have been on international flights, um, newer airplanes are more capable of holding the ground pressure, which leads to people being less tired after a very long flight. And I think that's incredible.
Oh, interesting. Huh. I had no idea. I always thought that might be just like experience, being like, oh, I shouldn't be drinking on the plane, and then I'll be less tired. But that's also technological
Yes, with that
innovation.
technology, you can actually drink more without being hit as hard as before. And
That's
it's coming
cool.
to more and more aircraft. And
Yeah.
then there has been a lot of innovation in structures, making aircraft lighter and engines, significantly reducing fuel consumption, which is very important, and
Yeah.
also emissions, of course.
Yeah, those are some things that I don't think the consumer side like really sees, right? Like lighter planes or less fuel consumption, et cetera. But those are like it would make sense that those are happening. Um,
Yes.
so you were working in different like aerospace technology, and then before we go into your startup Endeavor Elements, um, in the top, I was saying Endeavor Elements, it's an aerospace startup pioneering AI-driven avionics system. For the listeners, can you describe what are avionics systems? Like what are you talking about when you talk about that?
Um, in very general terms, the autopilot of the plane that ensures that the plane flies in a stable way, and also helps the pilots on saving workload. Navigation is another big part of avionics and communication. Um, Control systems are very important, where you have some kind of input and the system generates an output that helps with stabilization and the autopilot. And then anything that revolves around um, determining where the aircraft is in space. It's a lot harder than people would imagine, because there are technologies that have been around for 60 plus years, that are very good in helping pilots to find out where they are. And it's incredible technology, but it's also somewhat historic. And lately, the industry has been moving. Yes, yes. And lately, the industry has been moving towards using GPS, which is good. Um, but there's many more ways of navigating. Um, that has been something that was surprising to me. So yeah, that constitutes avionics, I would say. Um, and um, there's a lot of potential for using AI. But then certifying AI-based systems is complicated because often they're not really deterministic, which is a challenge in certification because you need to prove upfront that the system is safe and predictable. And if you have an unpredictable system, that's not great. And I'd say ChatGPT is very far away from AI-based control systems, but everyone has experienced answers that are not perfect or very random, and you don't want that kind of randomness in a system that controls an airplane 40,000 feet up in the air, carrying 200 plus passengers.
Yeah, but we've been doing AI stuff for a long time. You're
Hmm.
saying even in, let's say, like previous, like pre-LLM AI, those aren't implemented to aviation because of unpredictability or
Yes.
safety risks.
Um, there are ways of doing it, um, but the industry has been very hesitant, and a lot of tools and frameworks that are common in software development are not as common in uh, the aviation industry. Um, the code that is used in aerospace applications uh, has to be deterministic. It has to be
Yeah.
tested, um, and you're practically only allowed to use a subset of a programming language that is proven to be safe. There are a lot of issues with C and C++ and memory safety. You need to use certified compilers that are really expensive, and all of that is holding back innovation.
Mm.
Um, but there are technologies emerging that will help to address that.
Yeah. And you realize this when you're at the previous company? Like, when did you realize, oh, you should spend, like, go out and build your own company that addresses this issue?
Um, at the previous company, and also during conferences, and um, I took part in some committees that create the safety standards.
Hmm.
So I'm very familiar with many of the safety standards, um, or not many of them, but a subset that relates to software.
Yeah.
Um, and all of it makes sense, and it is very effective if you look at accidents and how rare they are.
Yeah.
Um, but it does limit the amount of things that can be done in aviation software. And the car industry, with companies like Waymo, uh, has been more open to that. Um, and there's a lot of potential for similar applications in aerospace.
So can I just repeat after you? So basically what you're saying is innovation for aviation industry has been on the slower side because there is almost like a, correct me if I'm wrong, like top down way of doing things. Like you can use these side of languages, IDEs, like safety regulations. And then
Mhm.
because that happens, like you can't do things outside of those like paradigms.
Yes, it's not explicitly stated that it cannot be done, but the burden of proof is on a developer, and the bar is very high. Um, and there are some technologies that have a track record of being safe. Um, and then there are some emerging technologies where the track record is being built. And then also the software development process in the industry is very slow and very expensive. It's driven by requirements and tests, and it's estimated that one line of code costs around $100, which is very, very high compared to other industries.
Yeah. So let's talk about Endeavor Elements. What is it? What do you do?
Um, in the long term, we want to be an integrated solutions provider for the industry,
Hmm.
similar to other avionics companies that are out there.
Hmm.
Um, but what we do differently is that we um, are building the company on emerging technologies from the very beginning. Um, and we're looking at how to comply with the rigorous standards while using new and emerging technologies, such as Rust as a better alternative for C and C++, um, and a more data-driven approach to certification. Because right now everything is document-based, and handling those documents is very, very complex. Even for a small modification to an aircraft, let's say when you install a Starlink antenna, the paper trail is incredibly long.
Right.
We're talking about hundreds, if not thousands, of pages of documentation.
Yeah.
And that's a small modification. If you look at bigger modifications, more complex modifications, the paper trail gets even longer and if not prohibitive to new technologies. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of startups underestimate that, and we sort of want to build a framework, um, a set of tools that um, enable engineering and acceleration while even improving safety. Because
Yeah.
right now, as I said, it's document driven. It depends a lot on um, old and experienced people, I would say.
Yeah.
Um, and it's difficult for new engineers to enter the industry. And at larger companies, it's very process driven. So one engineer is very focused on one specific problem set, doesn't understand the project in its entirety,
Hmm.
and the work is very shared, which makes a lot of sense. And then from a safety perspective, and then um, the engineers have to understand how certification works, which is not the primary skill
Hmm.
they bring to the table.
Totally.
Um, and it really creates bottlenecks, even for experienced companies. Um, and yeah, there's a lot of potential in using AI to help with that.
Yeah. So, with Endeavor Elements, are your customers the OEMs like the Boeing, Airbus, or is it like the companies that are building for Boeing, Airbus, and uh, the
Um, it depends. For some products, we have airlines as customers.
yeah,
For other products, we have engineering firms as customers, or anyone who does engineering
yeah,
in some kind of way in the industry.
gotcha.
Um, we are also working on a simulation product where you can rapidly prototype things and then test them while also generating the evidence that is needed for certification.
Yeah. Yeah, the blend between like video gaming and the airline simulation to like actually using it for compliance and training is like blurred a lot over the last like decade or so.
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, that was the earlier question was totally from my ignorance because I'm like, who are you? I in my mind, there's only like the big players in aerospace industry. Like I don't even know who's like
Hmm.
the what other companies are involved with like
Yes.
yeah getting
Um,
us into air.
there's actually a lot of small companies as well. Companies that do modifications. And for them, it's a challenge too because an OEM only goes through a certification project once every 5 years or so.
Hmm.
They have dedicated people for every single step of that process.
Hmm.
But those small companies, maintenance organizations who do repairs or install products on an aircraft, um, really are confronted with the paper trail on a day-to-day basis.
Gotcha.
And that's a big challenge for them. And it's hard to find engineers who have the necessary experience and insights. Um, and there's a steep learning curve. And I hope that our product can uh, address that by productizing the learning curve.
Yeah, productizing the learning curve, making the tech stack more advanced for aerospace industry, and then making the certification not something where like even the most experienced people like either don't want to do it, don't know how to do it, but streamlining all that process.
Mhm.
Um, I'm curious, Yves, where did the name come from? What was the inspiration there? Perhaps the
Um,
space shuttle?
to some extent, yes, but the general idea is
Yeah,
there's human endeavor, and we want to build the tools, the elements for that. And I
yeah,
think flight is a good example of human endeavor and moving technology forward.
yeah.
Um, but right now, we are focused on the aerospace industry,
Hmm.
um, but we are open to exploring other industries as well. And I think in other highly regulated industries um, are faced with similar problems. that could be addressed by our solution.
Yeah. And at the top, you said you are building this or planning to build this in the US. Are you currently in the US building it? And if so, are you in one of the big aerospace hubs?
Um, I'm in the US part-time,
Yeah.
getting my O1 visa soon, um, and then I'll move here full-time. Um, Mostly work out of Germany, but we also have an office in San Francisco,
Yeah.
and some people in Canada. But soon we are planning on all being in San Francisco.
I'm curious, why San Francisco? Because are they known for aerospace?
Not necessarily, but they're known for software and for
Got
AI.
it. Gotcha.
And right now, that is at our core. In the long run, we are considering other locations. I mean, Los Angeles is kind of a meme in the deep tech space.
Yeah.
We are certainly
Wait, why is
considering
it a
that.
meme?
Well, there's El Segundo with a lot of incredible companies.
Yeah.
Um, I think at the stage we are at, it doesn't really matter.
Hmm.
And in the long run, we'll probably be where our customers are.
Hmm.
For the aviation industry, that is Texas. The reason for that is it's very central.
Hmm.
It's where a lot of airlines have their maintenance hubs, which is where we will be working. We've also considered Seattle um, or Florida, but I think as we are focused on software right now, San Francisco and California are the best.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was very curious about that because I would never have thought, but the reason that you said makes a lot of sense. Um, what are some of the interesting, I guess, like technological trend outside of what you guys are building in the aerospace industry? I think you covered a little bit before, but more
Mhm.
context around that would be really helpful.
Um, I mean, Boom Supersonic just completed uh, its
Yeah,
their final test flight, um, and they proved that their aircraft is doesn't produce a sonic boom.
it's so
Um,
crazy.
yes, and that will enable um, flying supersonic uh, within the US, not
Yeah.
just on transatlantic routes, which will really change everything. And if travel times can become even shorter, it will connect the world more.
And
Uh,
what's the expectation for travel time being shorter? Let's say from like New York to San Francisco.
right now, it's about 5 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
I think with a supersonic aircraft, you can do it in 2 to 3.
Wow. Incredible.
So that's an incredible improvement. And then, as I said, there has been a lot of innovation in structures, in control systems,
Hmm.
in passenger comfort. Speaking of air quality uh,
Hmm.
and entertainment, um, there's Starlink, um, and I
Yeah.
think recently United Airlines announced that they're going to equip all of their aircraft, which is around I think 1,200 with the
Yeah.
system, and they will be offering high-speed internet for all their um, members uh, for free,
That's
um,
great.
and that will increase productivity just so much.
Yeah. I know some of the airplane right now, I'm just like the slowest internet. And I'm like, what am I going to do for the next 6 hours? Because I like download all the stuff offline and documents that I can edit. But you want to be connected, and Starlink makes a lot of sense. So,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
speed, safety,
hmm
comfort,
hmm
productivity, those are all going up in the industry.
yes, and then there's also air traffic control. And there recently was a crash in Washington D.C.
Hmm.
Um, and there's also a lot of innovation happening in that space. I know of one company that wants to uh, introduce an AI assistant into the
Hmm.
system that will help pilots as well as air traffic controllers to um, have a better overview of what's going on. I'd say
Hmm.
in general, it's not really an issue. Um, but it has been an accident, and the causes of that need to be addressed. And I think technology like that could enable more flights uh, in a specific time window
Hmm.
while maintaining or actually improving safety.
Yeah, more flights, like more flights in a single day because you're able to like launch or land multiple flights more than
Yes.
what we have today. Got it. The last question I always ask founders is, what are you optimistic about? And I think we had a little bit of taste because we're seeing
Uh-huh.
all the new technological improvements. But for you, Yves, like, what are you personally optimistic about?
Um, I am optimistic about all the new technologies coming into the market. I'm optimistic about the technologies we will enable to be adapted to be used by the aerospace industry.
Yeah.
Um, and also in general, what we are seeing in AI is incredible. I've taken a lot of Waymos,
Yeah.
and it's just incredible. They're humanoid robots. A lot of companies doing really really well,
Hmm.
um, and that will probably solve a lot of problems, both in the industry as well as at home when you can have a robot butler
Yeah.
uh, that will help you with day-to-day tasks. Um, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening
Yeah.
that so I'm in general very excited about the future.
So I know I said that was the last question, but I'm going to give you some like rapid fire scenarios. Do you
All
think
right.
there will be a fully like automated pilot, like a Waymo for airplanes?
Probably at some point, yes. So the industry is working on single pilot operations,
Okay.
uh, meaning you only need one pilot. That will probably reduce delays because a lot of delays and cancellations are caused by crew shortages. In general, there's a pilot shortage in the US, so
Yeah.
it would help a lot, but it will probably take 10 to 15 years
Yeah.
to fully materialize.
I know my uncle flies American and they're like, yeah, don't retire. We just need all these like pilots. So single pilot aviation makes a lot of sense. Do you
Mhm.
think we'll see let's see, like any sort of humanoids driving it? Like would they come as a humanoid fact form or would it be like all computer systems?
All computer systems,
Yeah.
like in a Waymo.
Yeah.
I think it's, it's possible in theory that you have a robot piloting a car or an aircraft, but it's just too much complexity, too much
Yeah, it
risk.
doesn't make
Uh,
sense.
it doesn't make sense, and it's
Yeah.
too expensive as well. It's easy to just install a box and connect all the systems. There are some companies working on that, and I'm very excited about that. But as I said, it will take a few years. Maybe we can
Yeah.
help to accelerate it.
Do you think with the increase of flights from a given location, it would be like a 24-hour, 24/7 takeoff landing situation with all these automated systems running? Because right now it's
Uh,
like latest flight is like midnight, right? And then
mhm.
it opens up at like 5 or something like that.
I actually don't know what the reason behind that is. I know that a lot of European airports have restrictions on night flying. I'm not sure um, what that looks like in the US or Asia.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's largely demand based. Um,
Gotcha.
but um, like having to deal with like crew scheduling is probably a factor in that
Hmm. Hmm.
because you need to care about rest times and uh,
Yeah.
getting
Humans
people where
can't
they
work
need to be.
24 hours, but maybe
Yes,
computers can.
yes,
Well, Eve, this was super fun to talk about aerospace industry and your company
it
Endeavor
was.
Elements. If people want to reach out to you or ask you questions, like where do you want to send them to?
I'm on X. My DMs are open.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, just reach out.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on Forum Founders.
You're welcome. Thank you.